I don't want to be a failure. I want to be a lawyer.
I don't want to be a failure. I want to be a pilot.
I don't want to be a failure. I want to be a college professor.
I don't want to be a failure. I want to be a computer programmer.
We don't want to be a failure. We want to stay in school.
Hello, welcome to a special edition of FSM News. I'm Courtney Coleman.
And I'm Vanetta Sims. This week we partnered with WTTW, PBS NewsHour, and the Corporation for Public Broadcasting on the American Graduate Let's Make It Happen initiative.
In this special report, we'll discuss the nationwide dropout crisis and how Chicago high schools are affected. Many local students get off track year after year, but the teens in our newscast today hope to inspire others to stay focused.
We recently profiled a young man who left school for an entire year. Here's his story. Michael didn't see the rocky road ahead when he dropped out of school.
Do like crazy stuff, like just smoke and just hang out and do crazy stuff.
But after a year, he realized no education and no job meant one thing: no future.
I left school for a while and like I couldn't find a job and like I didn't know what to do with my life, so I just went back to school.
Going back was good for him, as well as society. High school dropouts cost the U.S. more than $300 billion a year in lost wages and productivity.
No, when I look back now, I think leaving school was a stupid idea.
His principal, Mr. Carter, says students need more support from teachers.
Also, we need to make students feel that they can succeed. And we also need to be positive in our support of the students. And we need to extend ourselves in going about developing all the different strategies and ways that we can to help to make this a successful experience for the students.
Michael thinks parental support is also key in the decisions that teens make.
That they shouldn't push their kids so much to the point where they just gonna give up.
But he does admit that despite his parents' support, it wasn't enough to beat the peer pressure that got the best of him.
All the tensions and like everyone just keep pressuring you and then you just didn't want to do it anymore.
But Michael hopes his downward spiral inspires another student to stay focused.
And try to encourage them, like explain to them why school is good and they should go to school and make something of themselves.
If Michael's advice is true, any student who wants to give up should ask himself, where do I want to be in the next 5 or 10 years? Michael's answer lies within his decision to finish school.
So can you tell me what kind of experience you might have that qualifies you for this position?
Yes, I can.
I'm proud of Michael, the teen in our first story. He recognized his mistakes and returned to school.
I agree. Education is vital for teens to have a successful future.
Speaking of success, one local charter school strives to obtain a 100% graduation rate. Take a look at their strategy. Every year, 1.3 million students drop out of high school in the U.S. That's 7,000 teens a day, and one student every 8 seconds. In Chicago, the dropout rate is nearly 50%. This is a devastating fact, which is why some schools work especially hard to prevent this trend.
By hiring great teachers, I think that's the number one thing. You have people who care for kids, who build great relationships, who work hard for the kids. Number two for us is have really high expectations of kids. Most people would say that doesn't make sense. If you hold kids really high expectations, they're going on leave. I think it's the opposite.
Gary Comer College Prep on Chicago's South Side has two main goals for each student. Being college-bound is a must, and discipline is a top priority.
We focus on college, right? Like every kid in our school has a purpose. They're not just here to get a report card. They're not just here because they're supposed to be here. They're here because they're going somewhere. Once people realized we weren't changing, and as the results started coming in, because we had structured discipline, we became an environment where all kids could be successful.
But this strategy was too intense for some students. They didn't like the 8 to 4 o'clock school day, paying for detention, tucking in their shirts, or the double periods of reading and math. So they left.
Because it was strict and the work was like really, really hard. So I just felt like if I go to another school, it's gonna be way easier.
Gary Comer has a lot of rules and I just couldn't comply to them every day.
They transferred to a school with much less structure. But ironically, a lack of rules led the same students to return to Gary Comer.
When I got my grades back from my other school, they was horrible. When, at least here, when I knew that I was working, I was making a stride and I was growing.
I hate losing kids. That's probably the thing I lose more sleep over at night is the kids who we haven't been able to serve because something we did wasn't good enough for them. And when they return, I think it's validation and it's kind of affirmation to us as teachers and me as a principal and the kids who are here that what we're doing here is something special.
They quickly realized the purpose behind every strict policy and how it helps students maintain their focus.
If I'm focused on how I look, how could I be focused on doing my work? Since like we wear uniform, we don't worry about our appearances and we learn more, we have more time in the classroom and there are less disruptions going on.
The students we met already knew the importance of an education, but after leaving Gary Comer, they now understand the sacrifices needed to receive a quality education.
I don't regret returning because I know that here at Gary Comer, I will have a brighter future.
Gary Comer may not have the universal solution to dropout prevention, but they are tackling the issue within their own walls through scholarship, discipline, and honor. Thank you for staying with us. We're almost done with our show today.
Our last PSA demonstrates the struggle many teenage boys have with choosing an education over hanging in the streets. Courtney, have you ever seen anything like that happen before?
I see it all the time. However, this PSA may help someone else make the right decision.
Thanks for watching.